Hi, everybody. Mitch Tannebaum here. Thanks for joining me tonight. Uh, the lead story, of course, is what's going on with TikTok. On Saturday night, it did go dark. And that's kind of what was expected because the way the law is written, there's a $5,000 per violation penalty, and that increments every 12 hours. So, it could have cost them billions of dollars. Um, Google and Apple removed the apps and a whole list of apps, not just TikTok, but all of the ByteDance apps from the App Store. And from the Chinese Communist Party standpoint, it puts them in a stronger negotiating position because it all of a sudden it's gone, and the American politicians who, typically are pretty risk averse, um, they have 170 million people who are not happy with them at the moment. That's never a good thing if you're a politician. And you know, today, apparently, the incoming administration said that they are going to sign an executive order extending the ByteDance timeline for 90 days, even though I think they don't really meet the requirements for it because it says there has to be significant negotiations going on in order for the president to do that. But probably no one's going to challenge him over this one, I don't think. But, politicians are between a rock and a hard place. What they could do is just repeal the law. They don't want to do that. They want to try to force ByteDance's hand. But it's not clear whether ByteDance is going to bite, so to speak. And they can only do one extension. So, this gives them 3 months. But what happens in 3 months, assuming there's no deal, is unclear. They can't issue another executive order extending this 90 days. That's not what the law says. So we shall see. And, all of the ByteDance family of apps like CapCut, Lemonade, HiPick, Lark, all those things are all gone out of the App Store. And even though TikTok restored service today, Google did not add them back into the App Store. And I think that's because Google is probably in a little bit more of a leveraged position that they don't want to give the government any kind of lever that they could wield against them because, ByteDance is willing to take the risk. They don't care. They're a Chinese company. The U.S. can fine them, what did the Russians fine Google, like $40 quadrillion or something? They're going to ignore them. It doesn't matter. So, but, Google can't do that. And so as a result of that, they did not restore the apps to the App Store. So this is an ongoing saga, and it's a bit of a, thrust and parry kind of thing if you're into fencing. And we'll see what happens. In the new video blog department, we added a video this week discussing the draft cybersecurity regulation for all government contractors. So, we've been talking forever about CMMC, but the question has always been, well, what about all the other government contractors that participate in civilian executive branch agency contracts? They have the same kind of sensitive data. Well, this is only a draft, but the draft, it looks a lot like the CMMC. The third-party certification is a little bit different, a little bit lighter. So that's probably a good thing, but there's a 60-day comment period, and then they have to evaluate the comments and stuff. One of the things that is in that new regulation is you have exactly 8 hours to notify the government if you think you have compromised, controlled, unclassified information. And they say that you have 4 hours to fill out the form. So that means that you have to decide, and it shouldn't take anywhere near 4 hours, but that's what they say. But what they're saying is you have to decide within 4 hours that you've had a breach and then start filling out the damn form. That might change. It might not. The DoD says 72 hours right now, so we shall see. Under security and privacy alerts, Let's Encrypt is the big free HTTPS certificate provider, and there are other copycats. Google has a similar service, for example. And this is kind of geeky, so if you're not a geek, fast forward 30 seconds. A long time ago, you could buy an HTTPS certificate that lasted 10 years. Unfortunately, these things get compromised on a regular basis for a variety of reasons. And so if you had a 10-year certificate, even if you bought a new one, the old one is still around, even though in theory there was supposed to be a way to revoke it. It didn't really work. So then a few years ago, they changed it to 3 years. And then a few years after that, they changed it to 1 year. Now, Let's Encrypt at this point in time today issues 90-day certificates and they automatically renew. So, worst case scenario is you're compromised for 89 days, which is a whole lot better than, 9 years and 11 months and 28 days or something. Let's Encrypt says that they're about to release 6-day certificates. And again, who cares? If the certificate automatically renews behind the scenes, it doesn't matter. And the shorter the certificate life, the less risk there is if the certificate or the website gets compromised. So that's all good. If you're not using Let's Encrypt or one of its competitors, you probably ought to look at that. Next, the FBI is racing to safeguard the identities of their confidential informants. As part of the AT&T breach from a couple of months ago, the hackers did compromise AT&T's public safety service, which is used by the FBI. And that did compromise phone numbers, both the calling number and the called number. And so you kind of put two and two together to figure out, well, why is the FBI calling this person? They don't really have any business calling this person, so they must be an informant. That can get informants murdered. And in addition to that, they also have months of text logs. So the FBI is definitely not in a great place after promising the informants they would protect them and now losing all this stuff. It's not clear whether AT&T could be charged criminally. It's possible. I'm not sure exactly what statute that would fall under, but in any case, I'm sure the feds are not terribly happy with the FBI, and the FBI is not very happy with the situation. Hackers leaked the configs and VPN credentials for 15,000 Fortinet devices. It's really kind of interesting. It's a new hacking group, and they figure, well, how better to create our creds? We're going to go hack this vulnerability that has been around since November in Fortinet devices that hadn't been patched yet. And then we'll just give it away on the dark web for free. Hey guys, yeah, we're the new kids on the block and we want to give you a present. So obviously 15,000 Fortinet devices is a small fraction of all the Fortinet devices. But, it's still not great. And a tease to what's in the CMMC Q&A. People are asking about what happens if, we bid this contract based on the assumption that there's no controlled unclassified information in there. And so therefore we don't need to be CMMC or new FAR CI rule level 2 compliant. And then when we get the contract, turns out there is. What do we do? Well, we got a mechanism for that. It's pretty simple. But you got to do it early before you actually get the contract. So, if you're worried about that, and you should be, then reach out to us. And speaking of Fortinet, they confirmed that the new 0-day is not new. It's newly patched. It's actually been being exploited for months now, but it's only one of 14 bugs they patched, which, in patch world, it's actually not bad. Microsoft patched, 160 bugs last month. So, 14 is not too bad. But though this one only works if you have exposed your console to the internet, which you shouldn't do anyway. In legislative and legal, the U.S. actually arrested, as opposed to just charge them, 2 Russian nationals for running crypto mixers. That's the thing that tries to obfuscate where the crypto came from. And it doesn't work great, but it does work to a degree. One of them is called Blender.io. The other is called Sinbad.io. So, these guys, are now arrested. I assume that they're not going to be let out on bail. And there is a third Russian they're still trying to get to. The Sinbad crypto mixer was North Korea's preferred mixing service until the FBI shut it down. But these guys face 20 to 30 years if they're convicted. Speaking of crypto and getting not a great situation, BidMEX is a crypto derivatives exchange, and they've been basically ignoring U.S. securities laws for years. Finally got caught at it. I think they've paid about $500 million in fines right now. They just paid another $100 million in fines. So, words of the wise. Now, who knows what the next administration is going to do? Because after all, the president-elect, runs a cryptocurrency scam. So, we'll see. In the education department, question, and this is a question everybody should be asking, what involvement should the board have in cyber breach response? And I think there is a pretty definitive answer there. There's a link to an article by two partners at the law firm of Alston Bird, very prestigious law firm, and I think they kind of nailed what the issues are there. So if you are a person who has the opportunity to provide some input to your board, then I'd definitely check out that article. And if your board needs some assistance, then please reach out to us. In the breaches this week, the New York Attorney General has filed a lawsuit against a group of scammers who promised fake jobs to victims, convincing them that they first needed to deposit cryptocurrency to get a job. People will fall for almost anything. One victim lost over $100,000, and they don't really know who these people are, so they've filed a lawsuit by NFT, this is pretty unique. Whether they'll actually find the guys, whole other conversation. Next, Allstate is being sued by the Texas Attorney General. Really on a rampage against big tech, and while I'm not a big fan of Ken, I like what he's doing here. He's really putting the tech world on notice that you really need to think twice about what you're doing. And by the way, if you're in the business of selling mega quantities of data, you might want to come talk to us. But anyway, all Allstate is being accused of doing is violating Texas privacy laws, and they have a pretty strict law. And he says they conspired to create the world's largest driving behavior database from millions of American consumers without their permission and sell it to other insurance companies and other companies. The trillions of miles driven by all of Allstate customers was collected from a whole bunch of different ways, and they built this database. And then they use that, for example, to either raise your rates or deny coverage. So we shall see how that goes. Next, public sector is really challenged, I think. Hackers have stolen and published data from the DC police, including gang and HR data. It's about 250 gigabytes of data. And if the data is text, 250 gigabytes is a lot. It's the entire gang database and multiple HR databases. And the data is available for pretty much for anybody. Next, what are the consequences of allowing data brokers to sell your data? Well, if they have crappy security, like most of them do, they're going to get hacked, and that data is going to be out there. This time is data broker Gravy Analytics. They lost control of the database. We don't know yet how much data it is in total that was taken, but the hacker has released a sample of 30 million data points, which is a lot. And the thing why could be interesting is because it could be used for blackmail. The amongst the locations that these data points pointed to in the sample were the White House, military bases around the world, the Kremlin. So, some interesting stuff, and possibly a way to go off and use against people. And remember, you don't have to use it now. You use it, this data will never change. So you could use it in 10 years from now if you had a reason to do that. Next, it doesn't look like cybersecurity in 2025 is going any better than it has in past years. This is early January, and Apple has already patched a Mac OS flaw affecting system integrity, and Microsoft patched 3.0 days in Hyper-V, and this is mid-January, so welcome to 2025. Next, Washington has been very busy this past week before January 20th. It's interesting how the Washington bureaucrats can actually move very quickly when they choose to, and very slowly when they choose to. But anyway, the Federal Trade Commission has been handing out consent decrees right and left. GM got one of them, for example. And, so check out in the newsletter, check out what's happening in DC right now. And all that will change tomorrow when we get a new administration. And the news bites, is TikTok for sale? Obviously, the incoming president would like to believe it's for sale. He owns a social media company. Maybe he wants to buy it. Or maybe his friend Elon wants to buy it, or someone else, some other rich billionaire wants to buy it. China doesn't seem to be inclined to sell it, but who knows? Are all U.S. mail cluster boxes. Those are the boxes where you have, a whole bunch of boxes on a pedestal by the side of the road somewhere. Are their master keys all the same? One report says that there is a single key for all cluster boxes in the Denver area where I live. So that's kind of interesting. Uh, Makes you think probably that the mail is not the safest thing in the world. Next, if you think China's cybersecurity is any better than ours, not really. As everybody knows by now, the Supreme Court's unanimously, and they don't do very much unanimously, killed the TikTok. And very importantly, for federal contractors, there's some very significant fines that you can face if you don't deal with this TikTok ban appropriately. And if you're not familiar with it, and you don't know what to do, please contact us. We'll be happy to help you with that. So that's kind of all we have for today. It's pretty exciting actually, for cybersecurity guys like me. If you have questions, need help, anything like that, please reach out to us. Otherwise, until next time, stay safe.